We are going to talk some education tonight.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taco Comfort Solutions.
You know, secondary education in this state is kind of almost like a phenom to me, and an anomaly at the same time, because it just doesn't get the attention that it deserves. And I have very strong feelings about how this state has dropped the ball in terms of its support for secondary education in this state, despite, I think, the outstanding value that the colleges provide to the constituency. And so that is not a new thought from me to you, either here or on the radio, but it's always great to get it from the bosses, you know, the people who are actually running the show. And we're really excited tonight to have the Commissioner of Secondary Education, Post-Secondary Education. I'm sorry, secondary is high school. I'm already corrected. The educator's already corrected me, and she's not even on the doggone show, which means that I am definitely back against the wall in this conversation tonight. FYI, timing issues, just because of some of the storm-related stuff and some other scheduling. We recorded this show yesterday. You're seeing this on Wednesday evening, so you're probably up to here with everything, including the snow. And there are some post-secondary conversations going on here in Rhode Island that have a little to do with the classroom, a lot to do with the basketball court. By now we may know if Dan Hurley is sticking around. We'll have commentary on that over the course of the next few days based on what that news was or is as you're watching it. All right, here's a headline that kind of inspires the conversation. And this was big hugs to bring you in to the fold. Brenda Dann-Messier is the PhD and the leader of post-secondary education.
Sir.
Thank you for that.
That's correct.
You know what? Not everybody comes in here and shuts me down. It's a good start. It's a good start. You've been in the job a short period of time.
I have, 8 months.
Are you enjoying it?
I am very much enjoying it.
Why?
Because it's a job that can have an impact on the future of many of our residents, the state of Rhode Island, and of course our economy, because our economy needs a skilled workforce, and we have thousands and thousands of Rhode Islanders who also need to skill up, upskill, get a degree, credential. And so I feel like there's a purpose to this job, and it's meaningful, and that's important to me.
All right, you've been around.
I have.
You brought some significant experience to the table here. You've been inside our system for some time.
That's right.
You've been in Washington.
I have.
You've worked the community, which I think too many educators probably don't have an intimate understanding of. In other words, you know, at least in part, a significant amount of the constituency that's trying to get ahead, correct?
I do. You're absolutely right. I worked for 10 years the president of Dorcas Place, an adult and family learning center. Now it's called Dorcas International. But you're absolutely correct. I worked in the community of South Providence for many, many years, and really saw up front how many folks yearned to increase their educational attainment levels. They didn't call it that, but to increase their they knew they wanted to get a good job, had to get a good job in order to support themselves and their families. And I saw their dedication and commitment firsthand every single day.
And you also understand the challenges of inner city environment and the kids that are coming up in these families that want as much a seat at the table as everybody else does.
They do.
Right?
That's exactly right.
Tell me what it was interesting last night on the show, meaning a program we taped on Monday. It was a funny schedule this week, but you might have seen it last night. We had 3 young people from the local high schools talking about their reaction to Parkland, and now as we tape this program on Tuesday for Wednesday, there's another one in Maryland, thankfully at a much lower, cost, and the gunman reportedly lost his life. And I mean, can you imagine this? I mean, can you imagine this feeling? It's the average is weekly. It's not weekly, but it just feels like it's getting nuts. Do you have a side thought on that, by the way, before I ask the question I was intending to ask?
Sure. I think, like most people, I'm appalled by the access to assault weapons that are readily available to folks who I don't think should have them available. And as a parent and a grandparent, to send your child off to school and then have them not come, how can you not be sickened by all of that? It's just so distressing to me.
What's going on, since we're on this just for a couple minutes,
Sure.
what's going on inside the system as you talk about preparedness and all that kind of thing?
That's a great question. Making sure we are prepared, making sure that we've got plans in place, and all three of our public higher education institutions have plans. And I even had to say, what about our own office? If somebody comes to our office, while we don't offer classes and we're not a school per se, you know, somebody may have something negative a grudge against somebody in the higher ed system. So I've even said to our own staff, we need to make sure we're prepared as well. That's an awful thing to say.
I was in support of the URI police being armed back when that conversation came up, but it's not across the board. Is that something that ought to be across the board?
I think that's something we need to investigate. I'm not willing to say that right off the bat. It's also a decision of my council, post-secondary council. I don't know if that's the solution, honestly.
Yeah, what you don't want to do is get in the middle of the sandwich of these conversations. In other words, just pick out the slice of cheese and start debating it when you're not actually thinking about whether you ought to have lunch, right? Yeah. I mean, it's really.
That's right.
It's really.
That's right.
It feels insurmountable to me sometimes when the White House is stoking fires with solutions that I don't think are very well thought out. But that's just my
arming
take.
teachers, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I don't think that's a legitimate solution to this issue.
But going back to the thing that prompted me to ask about that is I had these wonderful kids in here on yesterday's show, and the first things they talked about, they included their assault rifle issues and gun safety, gun control concepts. But the first thing they brought up was the ratio of counselors. 1 in 400?
I know.
Not only for mental health issues, but for college preparedness.
That's right.
And I thought that was outstanding. And I think anybody who was watching that said, okay, what opportunities did this tragedy present for us to actually think about things that aren't typical, programmatical, polarized, go to your corner arguments?
Right.
Do you have a thought on that? I mean, you're receiving these kids.
I think that we've known that ratio is just way too large for a long time. And we have to make a commitment to really reduce the numbers and make sure that students have access to high quality counselors, whether it's for mental health or college preparation materials. I also would suggest to you that guidance counselor probably isn't even the right terminology today, that we need career advisors to help our students not only think about post-secondary education in college, but what career pathway do they want to be on? What jobs are even available out there? There are many jobs that aren't even out there that when they graduate from college, they have to have the skills to be prepared to take those jobs. So I think you have to relook that whole guidance counselor job title even and broaden it up to really provide the services the students really need to succeed today.
All right, listen, there's a lot of data that you're probably unaware of when it comes to post-secondary education, and we're going to talk about some of that data when we come back. So we shall pause and return with a conversation continuing. Stay with us. More headlines regarding our Commissioner of Postsecondary Education, really the concepts about boosting achievement. I'm going to ask, Commissioner, I'm going to ask you to kind of watch that monitor and walk me through. I don't know if your reading ability is as good as mine. The monitor's not, because I can't read it for anything. But there are some charts that we have here that I think are really interesting. And in order, Eric, why don't you just bring some of this stuff up? Post-secondary attainment in Rhode Island, 70% is the goal. Correct?
That's correct.
What does that mean?
So in 2016, Governor Raimondo set a goal that she wanted 70% of all Rhode Islanders to have some post-high school education, whether that would be a post-secondary certification, credential, or degree by 2025. And so currently, that state of Rhode Island, we're at 47%, and so we have a ways to go in 8 years. And when I came on, I looked at the numbers and did some analysis. I don't know if you want to
keep going.
Continue. Excellent.
Listen, you took charge from the beginning. You might as well take charge the entire way. Current trajectory towards 70%.
Right. So we need 390,000 more adults with post-secondary credentials or certifications. If we stayed the normal course, and we're at 47% right now, and that's middle, we're at the national average. We'll probably get up to 300. We'll need 90,000 more. So folks besides the folks who are normally on that course. And so when I did some analysis, I looked at the numbers, and we will not get there if we only focus on youth and high school graduates. In order to reach that number, we're going to have a much more explicit and deliberate focus on adults, low-skilled adults who are unemployed, who are employed, underemployed, and really need to develop targeted strategies in order to help those folks reach our attainment goal.
Well, that's the non-traditional population you're talking about.
Well, you know, some people call them the traditional population. Now, if you look at our institutions, almost 44% of our students are post-high school age in our colleges and universities today. And so, in all our colleges...
But they'll come zigging and zagging in from different places.
They will, you're absolutely
Right.
correct.
Yeah.
And what I think would be important to know for your viewers to know from their point of view, if they only have a high school diploma, there are opportunities for them. We have, let me break down the numbers a little bit for you. If we only focused on youth, who normally people think will be the college student, right? They go from high school to college. We would not be able to make our attainment goal. There just aren't enough. The demographics are coming down. There aren't enough high school students. So we have to have a very deliberate and explicit focus on adults. If you break that number down, there are 110,000 adults in Rhode Island right now with some college and no degree. Those are low-hanging fruit that we can really help those folks to go back to school and finish their degrees. There are 150,000 Rhode Islanders who only have a high school diploma, and we want to make sure that we have targeted strategies to help those folks also go into post-secondary education and be successful. So that's how we're looking at our attainment plan that we've broken. And we think a third of our number will come from youth, and 2/3 will come from adults.
Let me ask you about a 70% number. I think
Yes.
that it's aggressive.
It's ambitious.
And are we a little too hung up on this college thing?
Oh, no, I don't think so
Is
at all,
it-
because we're not just talking about four-year degrees, which people think when they think about college, we're suggesting that all the students need to go to a four-year institution, and that's not true. That's why in our numbers, we're also counting folks who have post-secondary certifications and credentials. That's an important part of the work. Those are the middle skill jobs where you require more than a high school diploma, but you don't require a four-year degree. So when you say, oh, we're thinking too much about college, that's because people are thinking about a four-year liberal arts degree. And we're not only talking about those credentials and certifications. We're talking beyond that. We're broadening our definition to include more folks in that mix.
So as you're looking at this challenge, what are you doing from a commissioner's point of view? I mean, you've got these three major institutions. You've got CCRI, which I think is completely underrated and has a new leader there that I think is doing a terrific job.
Doing a phenomenal job.
We're going to meet the RIC president here, by the way, if the weather prevails and schedules stay on track tomorrow night. I've met him, but he has not. He's the last major educator that we haven't had on this program.
And you'll be very impressed with him as well.
Yeah, I think Rick in the middle might be the best doggone value for education you can find, not only in Rhode Island but in the Northeast. And and I'm biased on the URI side because my kid went there and was very successful there. And but the nursing student that goes to Rick, or the teacher that wants to go to Rick, or the kid wants to be a teacher goes to Rick, versus all due respect, BU at 60, and what are you thinking? Right?
You get such value for $8,500 a year tuition at Rhode Island College. It's a tremendous value. I'm a Rick graduate.
Yeah.
I
You
can
get it.
brag about it.
So that, and of course URI, but each of these institutions have their own strong leadership.
They do. We are so lucky that all three of our institutions are on the right trajectory.
They seem to be pretty synergistic with each other.
They are.
They get along.
That's right.
But what are
That's
you
right.
doing? Do you have to knock them around a little bit every once in a while?
Absolutely not. I'm there to be supportive and to be a
Okay.
partner with them, to make sure that I am providing them. Our council is adopting policies that support the reforms that they're putting in place. All three of them really know, I call them scholars of education reform. They know what has to be done in order for them to be successful at their institutions. And for me, it's to say, what can I do to support you? What kind of policies does the post-secondary council need to put in place to ensure that your students are successful? And the students are all different, so the policies have to also be different for the institutions. But I am very lucky to be able to work with the three presidents that we have in place, because I think all three of them are doing a wonderful job for the state.
Yeah, we need, when we come back, we'll talk about whether everybody gets that. Stay with us. So of course that was the headline for the constant battle that the governor waged for free tuition for the 3rd and 4th year at URI for and Rick, and free tuition at CCRI. I battled with the governor over that, and President Dooley. Gave CCRI a lift because I think that's a different kind of conversation. I think that the remedial work that has to be done at CCRI is so important. Unfortunately, there's too much remedial work that has to be done at CCRI, right? The public schools are doing a lot of just moving kids on up. And I think CCRI has been a wonderful place to advance, to actually, if you don't know what you want to do, spend a couple of years there affordably and figure it out, but also to kind of redirect what the public school system missed. Do you agree with those things?
So I do think that you don't want students for 2 years figuring out what they want to do at CCRI, and CCRI knows that, and they have a new program called Guided Pathways, and you'll probably want to talk to President Hughes about that.
And we have, yeah.
Great. And so it allows the students some opportunity to figure out what they might want to do, but you don't want them to take the whole 2 years to do that. And so the way she's set up this with these mega majors, I think, is the right way to do it. Students are going to need some.
She's a change agent too. And
absolutely.
I think she's run into some turbulence with the used to be's, and this is how we have always done it type of things, and I think that's part and parcel to, you know, any change agency. But I vehemently disagreed with the governor on her tuition plan. I'm guessing you supported it.
I do.
And President Dooley and I had a good knockdown drag out. You know, I love him, but it was a sore spot for me, especially as I was writing my last check for the University of Rhode Island, and I think a lot of parents felt exactly the same way. Why did you support it, and are you going to continue to bang the drum for it?
I am going to continue to bang the drum for it, and I would also love to have the governor think about doing an adult promise program for the low-skilled adults that we talked about who need to get retooled and skilled up. So that program at CCRI is proving to be enormously successful. They've seen a 43% increase in students enrolling in the program, so that's, I think, one of the great benefits. And we had an event when we released the attainment plan, and there was a student speaker, and I think this is a good example. She spoke about, she was a promise student, and she said, I never did very well in high school, didn't think I was college material, and my family couldn't afford for me to go to CCRI. And when the free tuition came in, I thought, well, let me just give it a shot. She enrolled, she's a 3.8 average
at CCRI.
GPA at CCRI.
Yeah, I support that completely.
And she said, I realize I am a college student, and I can be successful, and that's what you want. I thought the governor's proposal to do the last 2 years at Rhode Island College and URI was a brilliant strategy, or a brilliant retention strategy. And I'll tell you why, Dan, because when students get to the end of the 10th year, and the sophomore year, and they say to themselves, I don't know if I can afford my junior and senior year of college. And they may drop out because of that. But if there was the free college for their junior and senior year at URI and Rhode Island College, it could even help us with our retention rate. So I actually am a big proponent of her original proposal.
Well, it wasn't her idea.
And I also think an adult promise.
The 3rd and 4th year, it was not her idea. Her idea was to get a star on her political refrigerator. It was actually President Dooley's idea, and the people at the University of Rhode Island. He wouldn't say that here, but I've done enough intel to know that that was massaged by people who at least were trying to make it smarter. And I do believe if you're going to do it, years 3 and 4 made sense.
It does make sense.
But anyway, it'll be interesting to see whether or not this comes up in the campaign, or whether she thinks she's accomplished what she needs to do. Are there any bumbling up about whether or not you are going to be called to support this idea take 2 before the election?
I hope I can come up forward and support the initiative. I very much in support of the Promise program.
So you're on the team.
I'm on the team.
And you haven't been dragged into that concept.
Oh no, and as I said, I've also been pushing for an adult Promise program. So
well,
I'm
I think
for
your
an
life
expansion.
experience and your work experience and your practical experience informs you on that, and I'm more inclined to want to know more about what you think about that in future conversations than just you know, writing blank checks to kids in school. Regardless, and by the way, one of the reasons I was suggesting that it was a faulty idea is that many times, you know, consumers make decisions on the value of products based on the price. And I think we've got a little bit of a self-deprecating thing in Rhode Island, period. And I think we've got a little bit of a marketing problem still in terms of the excellence that the institutions, CCRI, RIC, and URI, provide every single day. So discounting something which is supposed to be seen as premium, at a lesser price, I think is a marketing concept that didn't get enough attention. And to this moment, I don't think there's enough resonance inside the state for how incredible work is being done at those institutions.
No, I am so happy to hear you say that. You are a fantastic champion of our 3 institutions, and I feel the same way, that we have 3 solid, strong institutions that all meet the different needs of Rhode Island residents. I couldn't agree with you more. I'm thrilled that you feel that way. Thank you.
Why do you agree with me that there's still a little bit of a disconnect between how good they are and how people understand how good they are?
Yes.
Why is that?
You know, that's a really good question. I don't know, but it is something that I'm hoping that I can work closely with our 3 institutions to make sure that we keep beating that drum of what a good value our institutions are, just in terms of cost, but also just in terms of the education. I'm a product. You've seen your son, the results from your son and daughter. I can speak firsthand for the excellent education that I received. And we just need to tell the story more. We need to get the students out there, the graduates of our institutions out there to help us to tell that story.
All right, so what is the near-term future mission statement that you have? And I know you wanted to have one more reflection on the 70% number. In this last couple of minutes that we have, that the show's flown by, what is it that you want people to know about what post-secondary world is like right now?
So it's open and welcoming to folks who have never been to college. That maybe that's intimidating and they don't know how to do that.
Doesn't mean it's easy.
Oh, I wasn't suggesting that it was easy,
right.
But that the institutions welcome students and that they need to feel comfortable that there'll be somebody there to help them maneuver and find the right pathway for them. So that's one thing, is our institutions are open for business and welcoming to our students. And that folks who have had a college experience and it wasn't a good college experience, and as I mentioned before, maybe had some credits, come back. We can help you to look at those credits and figure out a way to package it so you can maybe accelerate your time to degree. If you only have a high school diploma and have never been to school, there are also programs. All 3 of our institutions are very well set up. If you've got some college and no degree, they all have programs for you. If you're new to this, they're there to help you. And our office can help as well to make sure that people understand. And so the point I wanted to make about the 70%, it wasn't just a number that the governor pulled out of a hat, because by 2020, Dan, 70% of all jobs will require post-high school credentials or certifications. And that's the message that we want to transmit to the public. If you want to get on a career pathway, if you want to be able to support yourself and your family, you really have to think about post-secondary education as part of your education career. You can't just stop at high school diploma. That's not going to be enough. Post-recession, we recouped all the jobs that we lost. Only 80,000 of them required only a high school diploma. So that speaks to the need for people to have to really think beyond a high school diploma.
Appreciate your passion. Good luck in the position.
Thank you.
It's a deep conversation, isn't it?
Yes.
So
an important one. And I
enjoy going to the office every day.
I love it. Good. I love my job.
Come back a lot, okay?
Thank you.
The Commissioner of Post-Secondary Education. Dummy. All right, final word and we come back to this. Again, as you might have noticed over the last few weeks, we've had some kind of themes, and education has been a theme this week, both with the high school students, the Commissioner of Post-Secondary Education, and tomorrow, all things, cross your fingers, the President of Rhode Island College will be in here to talk about what I do think is the biggest value that we have here in this state. All right, we'll keep the date on everything else that's going on the radio, weekdays 3 till 6. We thank you for listening there and for watching here. Have a great night. Bye.